Thank you. So, Chloe, in 2017, when you were 22, you suffered from a rare form of stroke, and then you had an abscess on your spinal cord, which meant you spent 4 years in hospital. And when you finally left hospital, you needed a wheelchair and you needed to learn how to walk again. So do you want to tell us about how the DCU Exoskeleton Programme came into your life at that time, and what difference did it make?
Yeah, so, I spent a long time in hospital and it was quite difficult, and I was using a wheelchair full time. But when I kind of was able to come home, and after some rehab, my mum had been looking into what other supports I could get, and she found the DCU Exoskeleton Programme, and we were amazed when we saw you on the Late Late. We had to try and get on the list, and I was delighted to be able to be seen by Ronan and all the guys there. Then I just improved so much when I started. I went from using a Zimmer frame to using a 4-wheeled rollator, and now a 3-wheeled rollator. And not long ago in November, I decided to go back to college, and I wanted to go on and do psychology. And I decided that I wanted to do that in DCU. And I actually went back and did my master's in DCU, and I had set myself the goal of collecting my scroll when I graduated with one stick, which I was delighted to have been able to achieve. Thanks.
Congratulations, that's fantastic. And a great testament to your strength of character as well as the programme. So what does life hold for you now? What's the plan post-graduation?
Yeah, so I've been working as an assistant psychologist now for the last few months, and I'm also working with a charity, a non-profit called Global Heart Hub, where I'm community development coordinator. So I'm hoping that I'll kind of carry on with this kind of philanthropic work as well. And yeah, I'm just delighted to now be able to do all the things that I, a few years ago, didn't think I would be able to do.
Congratulations, that's a fantastic story. And the best of luck.
Thank you.
I think you'll add a huge amount. And Jack, your story is quite different, right? So back in 2012, you had a life-changing spinal cord injury, which left you with 15% muscle function, and so you needed to use a wheelchair. But since then, you have become a leading advocate for health and wellness for those affected by paralysis. I mean, the list is amazing. You sit on the board of the National Disability Authority. You've starred in an award-winning Breaking Boundaries documentary, and you work with the Irish government and the World Health Organization on a collaboration that's looking at digital and assistive technologies. And I know you're anxious to talk about the bigger picture, but before we get to that, can I ask you what's your personal perspective on the DCU Exoskeleton Programme?
Yeah, well, look, it's a privilege to be here with all of you this evening. And I suppose every morning part of my routine is that I get up and I stand. I stand using a standing frame that supports me in different ways. But once a week I come here to DCU and I get to walk in the exoskeleton, and it adds an entirely different layer. With a condition like a spinal cord injury, the body can decondition very quickly. And the layers that active walking adds, look, we're meant to be upright and moving. It's the stepping motion that sort of reinforces bone regeneration, so you increase your bone density, blood flow, and all the body organ systems just operate to that higher level. When you're sitting, you're compressed all of the time, and so your lymphatic drainage and these kinds of things get, I suppose, knocked out of kilter, and everything just runs a little bit more smoothly. And what I've really noticed is that at the end of a session, yes, I get the benefit on the day in that I feel more connected to my body. It reduces pain, spasticity, and increases the sense of, I suppose, clarity, mental clarity from just being upright. But more than that, every time I get up and I walk, it's an investment in like Jack in 5 or 10 years, because we know that each time I'm getting up, I'm offsetting the downstream consequences that would arise from permanently sitting.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know you're really passionate to expand the programme to as wide an audience as possible. And I know recently you were involved in bringing the Minister of State for Disability, Anne Rabbitte, to DCU to see the programme in action. So what do you think is the broader societal benefit, impact and importance of the DCU Exoskeleton Programme?
Well, to a certain extent, for everyone that comes to engage with the programme, it starts as a selfish endeavour. You know, you're really trying to improve your station, so to speak. But I trained as a health professional. I'm a pharmacist by training, and I suppose you take a little bit of the health policy research elements that you learn during a health degree, and I started to look at it with that lens. The cost burden of a neurological condition, regardless of whether it's a stroke, spinal injury, MS, or the list goes on, it increases with age, and it increases as the secondary complications kick in. But they don't necessarily have to kick in the same way that they have done for generations gone by. With access to technology like this, regular movement and ongoing training, I don't think of it as rehabilitation, but I think of it as training. What you're actually doing is creating enormous savings for the health service over time, but you're also increasing the health span of the individual. And what's really interesting is that we see that, Ronan will be talking to you about his research, but some of the focus groups, the outputs of those focus groups show that people that come to walk here, outside of their once a week walk, they adopt other health-seeking behaviours. And so it really is like the butterfly that flaps its wings and the ripples spread out. And those ripples impact the individual, their health, but also their family, their support systems, and the list goes on. You also meet a community of like-minded people, and the learning, the shared learning, and the support is just another layer that's added. So, you know, this is innovative in many ways. It starts with the individual and it spreads outward. And what's being done here is going to set gold standard for what we can roll out around the country.
Thank you very much. And Ronan, we've just heard this inspirational personal impact that the programme has had on Chloe and on Jack. And as Jack mentioned, the other people, we've had over 150 people have come through the programme's doors since 2019. But like Jack said too, we're a university and we're not just involved in the delivery of the programme, but also the impact through the research. Do you want to tell us about what your ambitions are for the research ambitions for the DCU Exoskeleton Programme and what's happening right now?
Yep, sure, thanks Blánaid. I have to just acknowledge for both Jack and David how challenging it is to walk a robot in front of an audience to a marker on the stage and absolutely nail it. So well done guys. It's not an easy task, I can promise you that. Like we're in such a strong position to produce like really innovative and interesting research that's going to be able to inform like the kind of future of paralysis treatment, and I guess we would see this as the future of paralysis treatment, you know. It makes me really proud to hear what we've achieved in terms of the way we can impact people like Chloe and Jack to date, but like with research our impact could be so much broader, right, and that's kind of the goal. So the way we've structured it is we've created this kind of community of walkers, and you kind of described it really well. And we've got, you know, like normally in this space, people are kind of don't get as much opportunity to walk in robotic exoskeletons if they're involved in research. It tends to be earlier on maybe in their conditions, or and certainly for less walks or less opportunities to use it. So like we have numerous people that have over 100 walks and plenty more who are in the 70s, 80s and 90s. And we're seeing really significant impacts on their health, and that's never really been explored before in this population. So it's really, it's a really vital kind of part of the fitting in, like the pieces of the puzzle that tell us about this technology, you know. You know, then like obviously, in a university, we have all these opportunities to leverage these really interesting collaborations, and there's so many skill sets that we don't have in the program. So like we're working, say, for example, with the Insight Centre for Data Analytics, and they're helping us to analyse, like we get very large volumes of data from the suit itself and what the experience for the walker is like. So last year we took frustratingly just shy of 1 million steps, so it was 970,000, but like that's an awful lot of data. And the analysis of that is really interesting because it's showing us that people who use these devices in the early stages, like the first 10, 15, maybe 20 sessions, are really just learning to kind of acquire the skills of walking again and kind of like walking in a robotic exoskeleton. It's not easy to learn it. And very often in the research, that's as much as they would get. So like for those participants in those kinds of studies, they walk a bit and then the trial is over and they don't actually really get to be measured when they're really good at walking. So we get this opportunity to kind of explore what they're like when they're really good at walking. So that's a really important piece of information, and we're using that to build, I suppose, what you call like a clinical guideline. So we'll be able to like disseminate that to physiotherapists, other clinicians, other researchers, to show them this is maybe the best practice in this area, maybe inform how they can do things a little bit better and maybe get some more interesting information going down the line, And like that collaboration with Insight, it kind of gives us access to interesting technologies as well. So we're now using kind of specialist technologies to read the nervous system and the brain and what's happening at those levels to the people in the devices. And that's also kind of throwing up really interesting things. We're kind of seeing over time, for people who use this a lot, how it's impacting the kind of recovery in their neural pathways themselves. It's like really cutting edge. And all the people that get to use it, get to continue to walk and continue to reap the benefits of it. And then like when the next future of treatments and solutions come along, their bodies are going to be primed and they're going to be able to do it because they've been walking now for a long period of time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then the last question I have for you, what comes next after this for the DCU Exoskeleton Programme?
Well, we've had like really amazing growth thanks to the Trust in the last 2 years. But 2024 is hopefully going to be a really exciting year. So we're going to continue to deliver what we're doing. We have 2 of these adult exoskeletons and supporting as many people as we can with that and doing the research in that respect. But there's this whole population of children out there with paralysis that we haven't been able to provide any support to or do any research with. So these suits only go as low as about 5 foot. So in March, we're kind of receiving one of the first in the world pediatric exoskeletons. It's the first device that you can available to buy, but we're getting a very early one as well. And we're going to be able to explore how we can support kids with paralysis in these devices. For children who are growing in a wheelchair with different forms of paralysis, like cerebral palsy or a spinal injury, and as you say, as the list goes on, it can be really catastrophic for their body. Like people have probably heard of things like spinal curvature or scoliosis, and that is most common in children who use wheelchairs. So we don't know if we can expose them to large volumes of walking in the same way we've done, or regular walking, the same way we've done with the adults. And our research is going to explore, can we reduce scoliosis curves? Can we reduce the need for scoliosis surgeries? And the waiting lists for them are a couple of years long for some children. And like hip dislocations are common. We may be able to make an impact on that. And like while we're doing that, we're going to get to explore the impact on their function, the children's happiness, their quality of life of their parents, and like giving them meaningful interactions in standing with their peers and their friends. Like really, really exciting. Yeah, really looking forward to getting that going. Yeah.
The potential is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So particular thank you to Chloe and to Jack for coming out and sharing your deeply personal stories with us. And I think there's main course on the way soon, so I should probably stop talking. But thank you very, very much.